Today, on the first episode of our new video and podcast format, we review Medina Lake RV Campground by Thousand Trails.
We show you our front of the coach office in our digital Nomad section.
We find out how many watts our Furrion microwave uses in our What's the Watts section.
And in Rig of the Week, we look at the 2022 Thor 29J Class C Outlaw.
Jacks down, slides out. Let's get to the show. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Hello.
So this is our first podcast, if you're listening to the audio version of this, and it's our, 48 millionth video on YouTube. We're
or 48th, probably.
Maybe. Depends on when this goes in.
Or somewhere thereabouts.
Yeah. So we have decided to do a more long-form, podcast style show. Mm-hmm. And if you've watched some of our YouTube videos before, this is going to have a little bit of that, but it's also going to have some more like RV life type stuff in it, some things that we've learned, problems we've had, catastrophes, when appliances faceplant. That'll probably be the name of one of our episodes coming soon. And, all kinds of stuff. And
tips
we're going to have
tricks.
Yeah, tips and tricks, our digital nomad lifestyle.
Yeah, we've learned a lot over the year and a half that we've been full-timing. And every time we talk to somebody else who is doing this, I feel like we learn something from them and they learn something from us. So we just figured we would go ahead and put all of this into a podcast and also a video on YouTube. So it's kind of like double duty.
Right.
Yeah.
So as we're doing these, the first segment will always be, unless we're somewhere for a long time, where are we right now? Because that's what people want to know when you're RVers. They always say, where are you at? Where are you at? Where you been? And where are you going? It's literally the first questions we always get. So right now, as we're recording this, and we've stocked up a few, stops, so to speak. That's why what we're about to talk about for our campground review was like a month ago. Mm-hmm. But where we're at right now is called Camp Wilderness. Sounds like we're at a Boy Scout camp or something like that, but it's called Camp Wilderness. It's at Carowinds, which is an amusement park. So they own this RV park. In fact, a lot of the people who live here full time work at Carowinds, the amusement park. And Carowinds straddles the North Carolina, South Carolina border, just south of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yep. And we're here because this is actually where I grew up. The house I grew up in is probably 10 minutes from here. And my family currently lives about 20 minutes from here. So
10 minutes from here?
Yeah. Wow. That's why growing up, we actually had season passes to the amusement park here.
Nice.
And we used to come here all the time. So I'm looking at these roller coasters across the way that I used to ride when I was a kid and a teenager and stuff. So it's very nostalgic for me to be here.
The takeaway is those are 30-year-old roller coasters.
Yes.
Plus.
Accurate.
Yeah.
There are some really cool wooden roller coasters here. They are a little scary, but super fun.
Yeah. So, okay. So that's where we're at. We are here for just 6-7 weeks to see family over the holidays. So if you're listening to this or watching this in the future, then we're over Thanksgiving and Christmas.
That's why there's sparkly snowflakes behind us.
Sparkly snowflakes. You'll probably see that for the next few videos.
Oh my God, that was so fun with flags, what I just did right there.
Any Big Bang fans out there? Yeah, so.
Fun with flags. Nope.
Again, if you would rather hear us rather than see us, I totally understand. We have a podcast, so go to roadsteradventures.com and check that out. And Roadster is RODSTER Adventures, and it's the combination of our last names. That's why there's no A in Roadster, and that's why we pronounce it that way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, go check that out because we're going to constantly go back and forth between saying hear and listen. But if you're also listening to this on the podcast version, we are layering in video over what we're doing. And we're going to have different segments, and there's going to be a pretty video heavy component. You're not just watching people do a podcast like some podcasts are. We do have some visual things that we're showing, especially when we do our campground reviews.
Yeah, definitely, because we feel like it's really important to see a visual of the campground that we're reviewing, which is how we came up with this whole concept of a podcast where you can hear about it, but also a video where you can go watch and see the things that we are talking about in the podcast.
Right. Okay, so let's get on to the campground review.
Yeah, let's do it. So for our campground reviews, we wanted to keep these as consistent as possible. So we have 4 categories that we're going to rate the campgrounds that we stay at. and it'll be a number out of 5. So for a total of 20 points possible for each campground. In this episode, we are rating Medina Lake RV Campground, and you can see I have the brochure for it here. And this is a 1,000 Trails park. We stayed there about a month ago, and the reason we're doing this park now rather than the Carowinds that we mentioned that we're staying at currently is because we're going to be here for several weeks. So we figured we'd go ahead and just rate the parks that we stayed at on the way here so that we'd have, a new one for you guys every single week.
Yeah. And this is a 1,000 Trails campground, the Lake Medina one.
Yeah.
And when we say a month ago too, just in case you're listening to this out of sync, that was, so when you're looking at our footage that we're filming, that was, what month is it now? November? That was at the beginning of November, end of October?
Yeah, end of October,
yeah,
I think. Yeah, because it was before we went to Austin.
Yeah,
so,
okay. Yeah, so kind of middle to end of October, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
all the days run together.
I know. And trying to talk about it a month later, you're like, wait, what did we do?
I know. Where was that at?
Yeah. So Medina Lake RV Campground is about 45 minutes east of
San Antonio.
West of San Antonio, and it is on a lake, as the name and the brochure would indicate.
We call that a lake.
We will talk about the lake and what that actually looks like today in just a second.
Yep.
But let's start with grounds, amenities, hookups, levelness, all that kind of stuff. What did we think about it?
So we gave this a 4 out of 5. And I'll call this out right now. It's really bad editing, but given this huge, gigantic space between us, I'm probably going to put these right here.
Ooh,
so, yeah.
Check
4
out
out
your
of
ratings.
5.
More fun with flags.
Fun with flags.
Okay.
All right. So 4 out of 5. And again, grounds, amenities, hookups, levelness. This is just all the RV stuff and the living there stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what did they have to offer? I'll talk about the levelness first because that's the first thing you do. Like a lot of campgrounds, it looks super level. And then the system's doing its job, and all of a sudden the front tires are 6 inches off the ground.
Oh, man.
So,
yeah.
I know, Rachel doesn't like that. RVs are kind of made for that.
Out. I know. He tells me it's totally okay. It just really freaks me out to have the tires completely off the ground.
Yeah.
But we had no choice.
Yeah.
Because we picked a beautiful spot. Now, if you haven't used 1,000 Trails before, they do not assign you spot numbers there. So it does behoove you to get there as early as possible so that you can have your best choice of sites, especially when they're crowded. This one was not crowded. We had plenty of choices. Chris hung out up at the front with the RV, and I took the car and drove around and picked out a really nice spot.
It was a great spot.
It was open. It had tons of space, and there were trees over one side of it, so it was still shaded, even though the area outside of the door was super open. Really a nice spot, very big, but it looked level.
Yeah, and the spots are filled with like a crushed rock of some sort. I'm not sure what it was. It's like a white rock that's very stable, really good surface to level on. I don't even think I put jack pads out.
No, I don't think we did.
Don't think I really needed them. But it was, so that was good. And like I said, it was just the front tires were off the ground a little more than we expected. So that's not like a super terrible thing. It's okay.
No.
But for the most part, I would say the site was pretty good. There weren't any obstructions coming in, nothing like that.
Yeah.
The hookups were easy to get to. 50 amp spot, I think. Or was that a 30? We were on a 30.
We were on a 30. And the reason is because this park charges a $5 upcharge for 50 amp spots.
For the park we were already paying nothing for, you were like, no way.
Well, honestly, we don't need to because we have a really great solar setup, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point. And our lithium batteries, they supplement a 30 amp service with no problem, like we're on 50. So we don't really need to have 50.
We have a Victron 50 amp inverter.
Yeah.
And like she said, our batteries will basically, if we tell it, hey, this is what we're bringing in on grid, but we want to use this, it will just supplement with our batteries, our lithium batteries.
Yep.
And then the grid will charge our batteries when we're not using more than 30 amps.
It's really great.
So, yeah.
But back to the park, just keep in mind that if you choose a 50 amp spot, and they're all peppered and mixed in, they're not really in one area like you would think. So they're all mixed in. And they have purple covers on them, I believe. So they're pretty well marked. You know what you're getting when you pull in. And they will charge you an extra $5 per day. She told me that up front when I checked in, too. So I was aware of it.
Yeah, and as of the time we had this too, by the way, there was a couple of big areas that were completely blocked off because they were renovating them. But I don't know if by the time you see this and when we get into a high season that those are going to be available, but they look like they've been blocked off for a while already. You can tell with overgrown vegetation and things like that. So I don't know how long they're taking to do this renovation, but it severely limits the number of sites.
Totally. And I'm looking at the map here, and there's a couple other things to remember. Maybe you can throw a shot of this up behind us while we're talking about it. But the two spots like he's talking about, the two loops are are blocked off for renovations. Those are the ones that are closest to the lake. And then the rest of the spots are kind of a mix of 50 amp, 30 amp, and then some have sewer and some don't have sewer. So again, pay close attention when you're picking out your spot. Make sure you get one with sewer. And if you're coming in the high season, get there early, because I have a feeling that the sewer spots go first, and then you're going to be stuck having to go, tote your gray and black tank to the dump yourself, or pull up your whole rig and go do it. So keep that in mind. So yeah, that's the spots. We did tour kind of the whole campground, walked most of the loops, and the levelness is inconsistent. There are some that are more level than others. If you're coming in a trailer, though, make sure you've got your leveling materials, and Class C's, be ready to have some tires off the ground potentially. Yeah.
So this is a really huge park too, and it's at the end of kind of a residential neighborhood. So we got our bikes out and rode all the way around the park, and it was several miles, I think, just to cover all the grounds.
I went for a run too. There was plenty of space to run, and I didn't crisscross myself at all. It was a brand new section of trail everywhere I went. So, there's nice roads to go on. There's nice trails down to the lake and around the lake, kind of not around the lake, but down by the lake. And there's some trails through the woods that were kind of neat. Really nice trails. We've got some e-bikes with nice fat tires, so that kind of helped us. But yeah, there's just a lot of cool stuff. I will say that the roads out here, though, some of the roads at this campground are in serious disrepair. Some of the ones you got to go on with your RV. Yeah. So just watch, because if your tow vehicle's a small car like ours, and you can't really see what it's doing, you just got to be careful. And if you're biking around and just kind of looking at the scenery, you'll easily pothole your front tire and fall off. Definitely big potholes.
So there's a lot of stuff, like I said, besides just the biking that you can do at this park. Yeah,
they have a really great community center down in the loop that we were in, and I think they have other ones up in the other loops too, because it's a huge campground. So those community centers have Wi-Fi in them. That's the only place you can get Wi-Fi in this park. And they have pool tables, they have games, puzzles, all kinds of stuff that you can go and play with, or send your kids off to go play with. So that part was really great. They have an amazing pool. It was gigantic. I'm sure it's crowded as anything in the summer, but when we were there, it was completely empty. We didn't really use it because it was actually kind of far away from the loop that we were in, but it looked beautiful, and it would have been lovely if the weather had been a little bit warmer for us and less rainy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Okay.
So the last thing we thought we would mention about the grounds and the amenities is the gate situation.
Oh, yeah.
Now, all 1,000 trails are gated, so that is not unexpected, but usually they give you a gate code to get in, right?
Right.
This one, they did not give you a gate code. They give you a little piece of paper with a barcode on it to scan to get in and out.
Yeah, nobody's at the gate. There's like an automated thing.
Yeah. So one night we were coming back from San Antonio, I believe.
Yep.
And there was a line of like 5 cars trying to get in this gate. And we were like, oh, God, we do not want to wait for these people. So Chris thought that he would be super helpful and just give them his barcode to get in. Because, like, really, even if they didn't have a reservation, like, what are people going to do in a campground? Like, security-wise, I don't even know why they lock these things up as tight as they do. Whatever. But anyway, so we were like, oh my God, let's just let these guys in. They had camping vehicles with them, camping equipment. They're clearly there to camp, probably got here late, whatever. So you hand off your barcode to the first car to get in.
They got in.
Then we were the next in line because they moved out of the way to let us get up to the front. We were next in line, and the code, we scanned it and it said no pass back, and it would not open.
I think it just said pass back.
Oh, pass back. That's right. Yeah.
And I didn't even know what pass back meant. I was trying to figure out that word because I was not looking at it like in the right context. And it literally means don't pass back so the next person can use it. So there must be, we didn't wait for this to find out, but there must be some sort of time limit between the scans for individual barcodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And They did have one scanner that they could scan to get in, one code that they could scan to get in. So then they scanned theirs again. They got another car in, and then both of them were locked out again. Yeah. So we, at this point, we're like, oh my God, we have got to get out of this situation. We just want to get back and go to sleep. So we have a tiny little car.
Little Ford C-Max.
Little tiny Ford C-Max. And we were able to sneak that car in between the gates and get through and get out of that situation.
That is the second Thousand Trails gate I've snuck into with that car.
Uh-huh.
We did it in New Hampshire, too.
We did. Yeah. So, yeah, get yourself a tiny car if you want to sneak into campgrounds, I guess.
So, and now if you've got a huge truck, it's pretty much not going to work.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
And they've got tire rippers on the other side, so you can't go through.
In the out.
Yeah, you can't go through backwards.
But the moral of the story is do not pass your barcode back, and probably don't give out your code to get in either, because I'm guessing the code, if you had a type in code, it probably wouldn't work either.
Yeah,
so
I don't know how unique those
anyway, don't be nice as much as you might want to be. You'll be screwing yourself over.
Yep.
So.
All right, so another super cool thing at this park was the wildlife, and we're going to talk right now about wildlife, scenery, and local activities. And we gave this a 4 out of 5. We'll talk about why we didn't give it a 5 out of 5. But 4 out of 5 because the deer.
Yeah.
The deer
were crazy.
There's probably 100 deer on this park.
There must be, and they go travel around in packs of like 20 of them
or more.
Yeah, it's insane. And
I touched one.
Yeah, because they're not afraid of humans, which is probably not a very good thing. I'm thinking that they get a lot of their food from the people camping at this park.
Yeah.
But they will walk right up to you, and it's just crazy to be that close to something that you normally think of as being very skittish and not wanting to have any kind of human contact. And there's like little babies with the spots on them. They're so cute.
Yeah, they'll kind of jump and flinch if you're jumpy with them.
Yeah.
Or you come at them like most wild animals will.
Right.
But they immediately get used to you again if you just stand there.
Yeah.
I just held my hand out for this one. Clearly a gesture it had seen before.
And
it
thought
I had food. Yeah, we did not feed them though.
No.
But I was just sitting there. I was actually doing a meeting, like an internal meeting on a Zoom call, and I came out of our tent and sat on the picnic table and flipped my camera around because I wasn't really talking. I was just observing. And I flipped my camera around so the other people over in Australia, my colleagues, could see all the deer in the field. It was really fun to do.
That was really neat. Now, of course, as you can imagine, with a herd of 25 deer come a lot of deer droppings, and they were all over our campsite, which we didn't notice before we parked there. And honestly, it would have been like that in any camp spot, so I don't think we would have changed and picked a different spot necessarily.
They're just everywhere.
They were just everywhere, so you just have to watch out for that.
Yeah, we'd heard about the turkeys too, and I only saw them once. I don't think Rachel saw them at all.
I didn't see any turkeys. No,
I saw a pack of ginormous turkeys. We're recording this the day after Thanksgiving, so hopefully those turkeys are still there.
I'm like, do you think we had one for dinner yesterday?
I know, right? So, but anyway, I saw them. They were right on the side of the road, and it was crazy. But the thing about the deer, though, if you are coming in the dark, I mean, those deer are literally everywhere.
Yeah,
and when you see one, especially if it's like running across the road, chances are there's 20 of his friends behind him.
Yeah, just be cautious for sure.
And little babies too.
Yep.
Yeah, so now why didn't we give this a 5?
Well, it was mostly because I don't like driving anywhere. And this park is 45 minutes from everywhere.
Yeah.
The town that it's in doesn't really have much. I think there might have been a tiny little convenience store or something there, but like there's really nothing there. So if you want to eat dinner, if you need to go on a supply run, groceries, whatever you might need, you are driving 45 minutes, either back up to the interstate, which is sort of like up into the west, or into Austin, which was
San Antonio.
Into San Antonio, which is basically like directly east, but not quite directly east because you're kind of like swirling around on some highways to get there. So
you can go and get stuff. Yeah. But on the other hand, it's in the middle of nowhere.
It is. So
you might be looking for that.
Yeah. Very peaceful, very quiet when we were there.
There's no highways that go to it.
Nope. Nothing like that.
Or around it or near it.
Nope. Dark and quiet. So I did love that nature aspect of it.
Yeah. Really dark and quiet.
And like, so I still would have given it a 5. Given all that, there's one big factor that made me want to give it a 4 though.
Yeah. The lake.
This so-called lake. Guys, this is not a lake.
It used to be a lake.
It used to be a lake.
Serious drought going on.
Serious drought. It's basically like there's a tiny little like rivulet of water running down where the lake used to be.
And people fishing in that.
I know. Weird, right?
Yeah. So I guess they're still fishing it.
You can see where the lake level used to be because there's a boat ramp. There's a boat ramp in the park, but it's like
the boat ramp ends and
100
it's like
feet from the water now.
Yeah, and then it's a long ways to the water still.
Yeah, yeah. Like you're not putting a boat in here. Do not bring your boats.
Yeah.
Don't bring any water toys. You're not going to be doing anything water related at this park.
Yeah, I mean, call ahead. I don't know what feeds this lake. If it's a dam and they're holding it back, or if it's a just water runoff and rivers and stuff. But, if your big reason for going there is that lake, I would call ahead and see what the status of the lake is.
Definitely. The lady I talked to at the front said it had been this way for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's because they're still recovering from a couple year drought, which can happen with lakes like this. And it will recover eventually. Who knows? So, but definitely call ahead if you're super into the water part of this. Because right now, nothing.
Yeah.
We even had a spot where we might have been able to like see the lake a little bit from it, like kind of around the corner and down, but no, because there's no water in it.
Yeah.
So
all right.
Well, the next thing that we're going to rate is the connectivity.
Yeah, and we gave that a 3 out of 5 because both of us use the Wi-Fi pretty much all day for calls, and just the work that we need to do is on internet-based programs. I'm on Zoom calls all day long.
Yep.
There's from a minimal standpoint, there's also like streaming in the evening and stuff like that, and doing what you're going to do. The internet was obviously no Wi-Fi except for the community building, like Rachel already mentioned. I did do a speed test there, and it wasn't terrible. It probably was pretty usable, but of course, if you're actually on calls and stuff, they do have a couple side rooms. They're not really intended for like conference rooms, but I'm sure if nobody's there, you could do that. And a lot of times there is nobody there, so that's usable. But using AT&T, that was my go-to again off my iPad, the connected iPad that I've got. That worked pretty well. I had to call in a few times on Zoom calls with my phone to get it to work. Yeah, for voice. Sprint was okay. We did use it for streaming, but it was not super great for some other things. And Verizon just wasn't super great at all.
No.
But our Verizon's kind of broken anyway, so.
Yeah, we really shouldn't rate Verizon too closely because we don't really put it through its paces given the plans that we have.
Yeah.
But Sprint and AT&T we do use very heavily, and I think we had pretty good download speeds off of both, but upload was not great. It was okay on AT&T, but not great, and not good on Sprint at all. Yeah,
we rated this a 3 out of 5, but now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, I had 2 weeks? We were there for a week.
1 week. Yeah.
We had I had a week, 5 days of like all day Zoom calls, and Teams calls where I'm just like doing those all day long. Now, sometimes we're in a bad situation. I'll shut my video off for calls. Not all our calls have video on, but I'll usually shut that off. But I still need to screen share because I teach people software stuff. And
you were able to do it.
I was able to work all week. So there's that.
Yeah.
Well, if you can't watch Netflix.
Do you want to reassess right now and make it a 4?
No,
it's
because
up to
it wasn't.
Because you used it more than I did.
No, because it was super frustrating.
Yeah.
If I wasn't, I tried to bring in the Sprint MiFi down into our tent, our like work tent that we have, but that was actually just low enough that I think it wasn't pinging the towers well enough.
Yeah.
So the Sprint actually had to be up in the RV. But with that MiFi, they never have really good transmission through walls and stuff. So if you're outside the RV, you don't typically pick it up very well. So I ended up having to work inside quite a bit.
Yeah.
Just because of that.
And usually we separate our workspace by having one of us work outside in our like office tent, and the other one is inside at the table or on the couch or something like that. That's how we can both do meetings all day long and not get in each other's way, like sound wise. So 3 out of 5. It was mediocre, but it was definitely doable. I guess was the takeaway from that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, last one, price and availability.
Yeah, had to give this a 5 out of 5. Obviously, 1,000 Trails. It's free to us because we pay for the membership. And although, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add up all the 1,000 Trails that we stay at the end of the year and figure out what it cost per. Should I do like a per day? I should do a per day cost for 1,000 Trails at the end of the year to see what it actually cost us. Our year is they don't do it at the end of the year. They bill you when you signed up. So ours is in June. So in June, I'm gonna assess how much it costs us.
Nice.
But yeah, it was free. So, and then also we were there in October, so the availability was super great. So we gave it a 5 out of 5 for both price and availability, given our personal situation.
Yeah, totally. All right. So what's the total?
The total is not there. So
16 out of 20.
Yeah, 16. I can math.
There's a line here that says total, and there's nothing on it.
I know. It was my job.
So 16 out of 20 is not bad.
16 out of 20 is pretty good. I would say we definitely recommend it. And I think it would be really nice in times when the weather is good. It rained a lot while we were there, and we'll never take a campground down for raining because, like, what can you do about that? But with a lot of rain, it kind of means you're stuck inside and can't explore the area as much as you might want to.
Yeah. All right, next, even though we just talked about connectivity, we're going to do this every time, though, or most times. We're going to have our Digital Nomad segment, so stay tuned for that. Call for an Uber?
Hey, can I get a ride?
Yeah. This is a group Uber ride. I've got 17 more people to pick up.
Oh my god. I don't think I have enough seatbelts for that. All right, well, say bye to Medina Lake Campgrounds.
Saying bye to probably the biggest, most wildlife-rich campground we've been to in our whole entire time RVing. And by wildlife, I mean deer.
And turkeys. Although I didn't see them. You did.
I saw the turkeys. There was a gobble of turkeys. That was probably 15 turkeys all together, big ones. They look mean.
I really enjoyed this campground, even though I got completely soaked yesterday while I was out trying to get some footage for videos.
It rained a lot while we were here. Almost every day.
Almost every day. But being from the West, we kind of enjoyed having rain because we don't always get that over there.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was a great campground. We'll definitely recommend it.
Yeah. Okay, welcome to our first Digital Nomad segment. As you know, we both work full-time. Some of us more full-time than others.
Hey now.
So anyway, I'm legit like working pretty much all the time. And when I'm on calls, I have to have my office somewhere. So one of the things I like to have, obviously, is a place to put my keyboard. I could sit back on the couch, whatever. But I found out that, and I've seen other RVs where the steering wheel actually goes completely flat, and I'm pretty sure it's so it either gets out of the way or so you can set something on top of it. And I've seen other RVers craft all these wooden things with handles and stuff like that, but I'm like, you know what? I've got clamps, I've got a lap board, let's make a desk. So basically, I just take this, clamp it down here, take this side, clamp it down here. Notice how I'm keeping it up towards the edges a little bit, because my laptop actually comes all the way up. And coincidentally, I didn't even think about this when I was buying this particular lap board, but I bought one that has this little collapsible lip on it, which is really nice because when the laptop's right here, this is as high as our steering wheel goes, as level as it goes, so my laptop doesn't slide down. And of course, if it's too high for you, you can just raise your seat up. And I do that. I adjust my seat for driving and I adjust my seat for working. So yeah, so once you have all this set up, grab your laptop. Also works with my iPad, and I can sit here and do whatever I'm going to do. Oh, it's actually working right now. So another thing that I have, I am also a podcaster, and you just saw us in our first segment here with the mics. I rigged up this mic boom. It's just hooked to our cabinets happen to have a nice little area where I can hook this mic boom up onto here, and then I run a longer XLR cable down over the fan and then down, and it plugs into my Zoom H6, which is my audio interface. And that allows me to use an XLR cabled microphone. Now, the only reason I have all this stuff is because I am a podcaster. If you're just using a microphone for, say, doing your YouTube channel videos or whatever you're doing, there's some really good like plug-in USB microphones. You don't have to get all the extra equipment, but you probably ought to still have some kind of a boom so it's out of your mouth. But this is kind of perfect placement because I can sit right here. I record podcasts right here. I use it for client calls when I'm on my computer, so I sound good. You know, the whole thing. So being organized up here is also really important because you've got a limited amount of space. So if Rachel will stand up with the camera, I actually use the cup holder here quite a bit. And this is a phone holder when we're driving. And it's pretty great. We got power right here. And I'll plug my phone in when I'm using that. But when I'm not driving, my H6 just actually sits right there. And sometimes I will actually, it doesn't actually trigger the thing back here, so I gotta do it with my hands. Sometimes I will actually move the H6 just over here into this little cubby and stick my phone right there. But I also have a little table that I set here sometimes, which you'll see in a future video. And I set some other stuff on there like my coffee charger and things like that. So now the final component to this, of course, if I'm on video calls, it's facing that direction. And I don't necessarily want all the people on my client calls to be able to see the RV behind me, especially because we all know our RVs aren't super clean all the time. Not that ours is dirty, but, you know, they don't want to see my house.
They get cluttered.
Yeah, and they don't want to see Rachel walking around.
They get cluttered.
Yeah. So, Rachel, what do I do when that's not the case?
So, again, these little clamps come in handy. So this is the same clamp that Chris used to put his laptop onto the steering wheel, and we have a smaller version of it. And what we do is we've got this screen here so this screen was meant for a projector, and it just didn't really work out to have a projector in here, but it works out perfectly as a background to close Chris off in his office, and then I get to be back here doing my thing, washing my dishes, making lunch, doing the work I've got to do back there with the TV on if I want.
Yeah.
And he's in here, totally isolated.
Yep. That's
Instant office.
It's pretty cool.
I think the one thing it does is it helps hold the heat in up here, though. It already is the hottest part of the RV. And then you put a screen up, it keeps even more heat in. Yeah,
we'll talk about some other places that I like to work, especially when it's really hot during the summertime, because even with the air conditioning running, I will sometimes turn on the RV fans up here in the corner. Obviously the snowflakes aren't up all the time, but I'll sometimes turn on the RV fans, and then I'll also set another fan right here where the plants are, that just faces onto me. Because sometimes I just have to be up here. There's like, it's too noisy outside or something like that.
It's rainy, like
the
outside office doesn't work if the weather's bad, so.
Yeah, so sometimes you're just forced to be up here despite the heat. But there it is.
Yeah,
all right.
That's your office. Mobile office, kind of mobile. It's the office after we're not mobile anymore.
Yeah, it's a mobile office, but it's not mobile, but it is mobile.
Yes, all of that.
Yeah, all of that. All right. Well, speaking of power, what's the watts? Welcome to our first What's the Watts segment. We have a Victron controller for our system that came when we got the solar and the lithium and all that stuff. And right here, it shows us what our AC load is. Currently, we've shut pretty much everything that we can shut off, like this little TV red light right here is causing me some problems. But it's showing us at about 23 to 24 watts. We also have, because we have some lights on up front, about 69 watts, 68 to 69 watts of DC that we're using as well. So Rachel is going to turn on the microwave, and we're going to see what the AC load is of running the microwave. Rachel. See, it has a little bit of a jump, and then straight up to 1500, 1511, 1516, 1531. So we'll call it about 1525.
What'd you start at?
37. So a little under 1500 watts for this Furrion microwave. Welcome to Rig of the Week. We are talking about the 2022 Thor 29J Class C, the Outlaw.
Yes, super interesting rig because it's got a toy hauler in the back.
Yep, and it's got nice flat windows, which we've liked on a lot of the newer rigs.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of bay space, however. There's very few storage bays. In fact, we don't really show hardly any of them.
Yep, and this one's not even a bay. It's a TV.
Yeah.
Nice low TV, so you're not craning your neck to see it. But
yeah, the TV in our rig is like at my face height when I'm standing.
Yeah, totally. That sucks.
Yeah. So as you come around the passenger side and front of the RV, there's another little bay there that's kind of got nothing in it. It's got the Ford E450 engine and chassis. And as you come around to the front, you can see it's got the typical Class C overhead bunk right there, emblazoned with Outlaw in case you wanted to be bad. And it's got a slide on the driver's side, a big long slide on the driver's side, and there's a nice slide cover over the top of it there.
Really expands your space inside to have that big old slide like that.
Yep. All the connections, typical of a Class C, are on the outside. This is a 30 amp rig. It's rigged for cable as well on the outside, and all your water and sewer connections are also on the outside. These are also fully rigged for solar as well. There's panels on the roof already.
Yep.
Yep.
Nice driver's cab. It's pretty standard from what you would see in a Ford vehicle like this. Looks pretty comfortable for driving. Lots and lots of cup holders, which is very important, as we know. And just like lots of little pockets around for everything and stuff, and USB chargers everywhere.
Yeah. The overhead sleeping compartment's pretty cool because you can take the part that you would crack your head on when you're getting into the driver's seat out, and it's got a TV up there for pulling into the living room too.
Nice small kitchen like you would expect in a Class C, but at least you get a little extended space with the counter that folds up.
Yep. And the bathroom, I did the big guy test. And the nice thing is it's got a curved top rail. It is a soft door. It's not really a curtain, but it's kind of a soft door. So you can bump your elbows into it, presumably. And I got in and I could stand, kind of sideways. I really couldn't stand any other way because I've got all the shoulders. And that's the way it is. My head was pretty much into the ceiling,
pretty
too.
Standard for RV showers. It's
standard.
maybe a little bit smaller than you might get in a bigger one, but not terrible. Lots of couch space. So we've got a small couch next to the door that folds down into a small child-sized bed.
Yep, and it goes in and out pretty much like you would expect.
Yep, and then on the other side, there is a larger couch where I guess you could consider it like the main bed up in the front area, maybe. Yeah. It could be. And, of course, there's the one overhead as well, so lots of bed space.
So far, you can sleep like 8 people. Plus, there's tables that you can put, 2 different big tables you can put in the front for like a big dining area, and those are stored under the bigger couch.
Yep. Lots of cabinet space up above the couches as well. They're kind of big caverns that you could lose things in. And then you've got your pretty small fridge there.
Yep, kind of a small refrigerator. It's got a freezer, no ice maker in this refrigerator-freezer combo.
No, but perfect for a weekend trip or even a couple weeks.
And, of course, the reason you buy one of these is for the garage space in the back, and this one does have the back platform that goes down and looks like it converts into a patio, and it's got like railings for the patio, and then a curtain that will come across, a see-through curtain that will come across is like a patio door, so you can close that space off.
Yep. There's some nice cabinets overhead as well, so you got more storage back here.
Yep. And there's always the weird little desk thing in toy haulers. And one thing we couldn't really show was the bed that slides down from the toy hauler because the bed is up and there was no power to it, so we couldn't bring the bed down.